Guys, we're going to be talking 3-team, 4-team, 5-team Jimmy Butler trades, but you're going to want to stay until the end of the show because I also decided to just take a blowtorch to everything.
Yeah. Hey, happy Tuesday. Let's get crazy. On the PHNX Suns show, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Download that Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365. And when you sign up, find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We're all getting crazy today. I'm Eric. That's Steven. That's Gerald. And we have silly little computer boy. I'm going to call him Crazy Computer Boy. How about that? That's better. Crazy Computer Boy. Noah behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. Thank you, everybody. Leo, Sandman, DJ, Maria, Oh For Sure, that dude, Meatloaf, Nay, everybody in the chat already sounding off before the show even started. I love you all. Make sure y'all hit that like button. It helps us out so much. Make sure you subscribe as well. We are going to get into quite a few trades with quite a few teams, but we do have a little housekeeping to do first, Gerald. I'm not gonna play the video yet, but we saw Kevin Durant say some things after their loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Some pretty crazy things, and not that Kevin Durant was saying anything crazy, but the fact that they don't have a zone package.
Oh my gosh.
We are halfway through the season, and I know that a lot of teams don't run zone, but some of them do, and the Suns have struggled with that. And they shouldn't because they're an NBA team. I'll say that. But like at the same time, like Steven called it out in our pregame show that the Cavs were going to go zone. This is someone who is not paid to cover NBA basketball or to know these things. Like this team should probably have, any NBA team should probably have a zone package at this point.
You would hope so, especially considering the context of the team you're going up against. They're operating without their backup center, who is Evan Mobley. Yes, he's their starting power forward. He's also their backup center. They haven't been too interested in playing Tristan Thompson too much this season. He's more of a locker room, get the guys ready at practice type of roster addition versus actually playing. But he literally played yesterday, but they were still playing zone even with him on the floor. Those things should have been anticipated. It should have been in the scouting report, and it should have been planned for.
So we don't even really need to play everybody knows. Everybody knows that Kevin Durant was talking to Dwayne Rankin, shout out Dwayne, traveling with the team, and just asked about like, hey, tough defense to play against. He's like, yeah, they are tough, especially when they implemented that zone. And it gave them a lot of fits, but they don't have personnel that should be struggling with a zone. And so I have a very simple question. I know that it's insane that they don't have it. Does it worry you about we've spoken so much that this team cannot be fixed by trades, and we're going to get into trades, but does it worry you the fact that we're sitting here over halfway to the season and it's just like, hey, we don't have something for a very simple look that we should already have something for?
A little bit, especially since this is the guy that has been billed as, someone who takes the attention to details very seriously. Like that's what he was touted as coming in. And that's what, I've been asking around Charles Lee, several other coaches that have come from the Mike Budenholzer coaching tree, and all of them have brought up that attention to detail. But we're not seeing it right now with this Suns team. And it's just in little things like that, like Kevin Durant kind of letting slip that they don't have a zone package. Like, we heard earlier in the season when Bradley Beal was taking primary defensive assignments. And, this is a team that probably, especially when Oso Ighodaro is out there, can switch and might need to switch to mix things up. But they lean very heavily away from switching, and hearing Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, give Bradley Beal props for a team for defending those assignments without switching because they didn't switch a lot. You can just hear in little responses here and there like that it doesn't feel like everyone's on the same page in terms of what they're doing or what they should be doing. And this feels like another example where it's like, okay, how does that happen exactly?
Yeah, it just feels like they lack organization. And in addition to that, the connectedness to execute to whatever a game is setting for you to do to win, having a plan against the zone and going out and executing against that, having a plan against a team defensively that does not present them with the shots that they like to take most, and at least taking something away from them to make them work through different layers of your defense. There's just so many examples of that stretched across this entire season. Again, whether they've been healthy or whether they were withered in terms of the capacity of their roster they were operating with after that 81 start. They just haven't had it, and they need to find it and find it fast because, like we said yesterday, they just crossed the halfway mark.
Yeah, the time is starting to tick, right? Like when I talked to Tim Legler about a month or so ago, he mentioned around now is when you really start making your observations on who teams are. And but before I say what I'm about to say, I want to preface it by not ignoring the fact that there is a lot on the players when it comes to effort, connectivity, communication, especially on defense. But I think we also have to understand that if there is not a game plan in place to make it easier for them to communicate, whether a zone is thrown at them, whether they need to throw a zone at somebody, right? If you don't go into a game prepared, you're not going to feel free to communicate and to play within yourself. Like, let's just take it, for example, any job at all. You're part of a team. If there's not a game plan and set communications of what we do if we hit a road bump, right? If you're a plumber and you don't know what to happen when something springs a leak, guess what? When the leak springs, you're screwed. You don't know what to do. You're running around with a chicken, like a chicken with your head cut off, right? So if the Suns get hit with any sort of adversity, which is something we've seen and we saw against Cleveland, and you haven't practiced a response for that, that's a massive problem. And that's something I'm going to be keeping my eye on, tapping into you guys who could see the game just in a different way. Like, do they look prepared? Not do they look like they're giving effort, but do they look prepared?
Honestly, it's not only gonna hit the team's production, but you're at a severe disadvantage if you're not prepared for something an opponent might, even just the idea and thought that it might come up in this game. You're at a severe disadvantage because they literally stole the game from that end of the first quarter stretch to about the midway point of the second quarter by just throwing the most basic of 2-3 zones at them. They didn't put Jarrett Allen at the top of it and make it exotic. They didn't put crazy wings at the top of it and make it exotic. They hid Donovan Mitchell in one of the corners, and they had two smaller guards because their general guard group is small at the top of it, and they just had no answer for it. Like that's just, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, it's not okay. What is okay is our light goal that we forgot to set.
All right,
Noah, I want you to set the light goal for today. What number are we getting to? I feel like a lot of people are going to be in here because of trades. I think it's okay to go high.
Let's go with 169.
Ooh, that's not a shocking number from Noah at all. 169 likes. That is our goal for today. Once again, thanks to that review guy, Lucas DJ, Sandman, Meatloaf, that dude, everybody, Mario, Not Bros 2 in the chat. We're going to read your super chats in a little bit as well. Do we have anything else about the Cavs game, the lack of a zone? How sad that really is.
Yeah, I just feel like we're at a point where it's speculation on our part, how much is on the coach, how much is on the players, because people are going to continue to point out that, like, we changed the coach. It can't be multiple coaching staffs. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I do think wherever you want to assign the blame, there does appear to be a very important disconnect between the two sides of that. And we're seeing it on the court because when they get punched, they either look like they're not prepared or they don't have the heart or the trust to battle back from those types of things. And so when you're not prepared, when you don't feel that trust in what you are going out there and doing, it can be hard to respond in those moments. And I think we've seen that. We've talked about the lack of belief that we're seeing in their effort, in their execution, and all of that. I think all of those things go hand in hand.
For me, it's the getting more out of Nick Richards than you did out of Mason Plumlee and Jusuf Nurkic defensively. Obviously, his base coverage that he's most comfortable defending in is drop coverage, but he's a lot more able-bodied than Mason Plumlee and Jusuf Nurkic are, especially at where they are in their careers right now, relative to where Nick Richards is. he should not be playing the same type of drop coverage that both of those two are. And for those that don't understand drop coverage, it's just when there's a pick and roll and the person that's guarding the screener is back on the screen instead of being up on the screen. And there's nuance to it, and that nuance is which is what I'm getting to with Nick Richards. There's no reason why Nick Richards shouldn't be a half foot or 2 feet behind the screen at most to not just have Darius Garland come off a screen and see that the next closest defender after the great screen set from Jared Allen is 5 to 6 feet away from me to where there's no contest. I'm not even seeing that person when I'm pulling up to shoot the three. Nick Richards should be closer, if not touching the person that's setting that screen, just for optically and feel that guard can't just come off and know that they can turn the corner if they want to, they can snake the dribble if they want to, or they can get to the mid-range or just pull up for three like we saw Darius Garland do countless times yesterday.
Ayo in the chat says, Shanghai Sharks play better right now than my favorite team.
Damn.
Oh, Buddha says Steven for new coach. I mean, listen, I'll tell you what. If Steven was coaching, and I'll speak for him because he lets me do that all the time.
Sure.
All the time.
They would absolutely have his own package 42 games into the season.
Especially going into a game against a Cavs team that plays zone.
Where he said that they should be prepared for
third
zone.
most possessions in zone going into last night or yesterday's game against the Suns. They might run it, just maybe.
Just maybe. Well, and
Just
I
maybe.
think that's my final layer in all of this before we kind of transition over to some more trade talk, which we are going to get to, and thank you all for being here for that. You are not going up against teams who are lacking preparation like you are, right? Like Cleveland came into yesterday without two of their best players, one of their 6 men, and of course, Evan Mobley.
Yep.
And they had a clear identity. They knew exactly what the Suns were going to do. They knew their weaknesses, and they exploited it. They exploited it to tunes of a blowout against a basically fully healthy Suns team, right? That's what you're going to run into if you do stumble your way into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? So trade or no trade, whatever it is, something's broken. Something has to be fixed internally. Maybe a trade can't do it, but we're still going to try. We got Jimmy Butler trades, Patrick Williams trades, all of that. But first, we got to do a little housekeeping when it comes to the fact that, according to The Athletic, now this is some news that's been floated out there from Gambo and has been widely believed, but The Athletic confirming that Bradley Beal would be open to waiving his no-trade clause for the right destination, and they also added, Gerald, that the Suns have yet to approach Beal about a trade.
Which makes sense, and I think we heard this from ESPN back a while ago in terms of you don't approach Bradley Beal until you have a trade all lined up. I feel like at this point, it's very obvious what the Suns are trying to do. I think Beal has already heard the rumors. He already knows what's happening on that front. So it's going to be kind of awkward, but we're at the point where, like we mentioned on yesterday's show, benching Bradley Beal was something you cannot undo. And I think it was meant to have this exact motive to getting him to be more open to considering waiving his no trade clause to go somewhere else. And you can kind of see it. It's not just a Bradley Beal thing, but the way that he was basically just invisible for most of yesterday's game coming off the bench, it kind of speaks to how uncomfortable this situation is right now, how he probably feels like he's not being used correctly because he views himself as a starter. And it was all fun and games when, bringing him to the bench, let them rattle off, 6-2 record over 8 games or whatever it was. But when you actually face a real test, it didn't pay dividends for you. So now we're in this situation where this discomfort is probably lining up to him waiving that no trade clause selectively. He's not just going to do it to get the hell out of Phoenix.
Detroit basketball. No, I'm kidding.
He's still a family man, and having his family in a city where they are comfortable, where his wife has input, where his kids can be happy is very important to him. Like, when he first came here, he talked all about being excited to get his kids in flag football out here, to get them set up and make new friends and all that stuff. So he's not just going to waive a no trade clause to go to Detroit. Sorry, not to poo-poo on your idea.
But,
Detroit.
No, don't say sorry to him. Say sorry to him.
Somewhere else. Sorry. No, but like, it's going to have to be somewhere that makes sense, both from I can probably start and play real minutes, and hopefully I can continue to compete on a competitive team because I already did the Wizards thing for years. I'm not trying to be banished to some NBA Siberia where I can't at least be competitive. So those are definitely things to keep in mind as we talk about some of these trade possibilities.
It's a very awkward scenario. I can't imagine that there are zero remnants of it. Not necessarily in the locker room to not put a lens on Bradley Beal as a bad teammate, because he's as far from that as he could possibly be. I think we've done well in communicating that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way that an elephant in the room like that and the conversations being had in the NBA circles doesn't infiltrate its way into the locker room in some capacity or to the practice room where things are just a little awkward. Like, I don't know if we're going to see this guy tomorrow. Like, he's clearly hearing everything that's being said.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not him, his representatives are having conversations with newsbreakers to gain information and to, tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
So all this information is very much public. There's no way it doesn't weigh on a player. You tandemize that with a demotion and role, even if his minutes haven't really seen a hit. But for him to be extrapolated from the starting lineup, these things are adding up. Dominoes are very much falling. And I feel like we're starting to get to a point where something is going to happen. Whether it's something we predict or something else, change is inevitable in this scenario.
You know what else is inevitable? Trades. At least us writing about it, Gerald putting it down, and us talking about it. We have so many wild, crazy trades for you. Over 300 in here on a Tuesday afternoon. Love to see that. Just a reminder, our like goal is 169 likes set by crazy computer boy Noah. Make sure you hit that like button. Drop down in the chat below where you think Bradley Beal will eventually end up. Is it the Suns? Is it another team that we're about to talk about? We have so much fun that we're going to get into. We just got to hit this break first. Big shout out to one of our chatters who said that they went to the Cavs Suns games. They got really good seats. Unfortunately, did not come with the win.
No.
But I really hope you got your tickets over on Game Time, because you could have great seats, of course, at a great price as well. Game Time has Game Time picks, which is an easy way to filter out the fluff. And it's not just for Suns games. It's not just for sporting events. I was able to buy my wonderful wife the birthday gift of her dreams, getting her tickets to Billie Eilish, because I used Game Time picks. I filtered out the fluff. I got the lowest price. I clicked the all-inclusive pricing, so I wasn't shocked by any fees or anything that came up. I knew what I was paying. I saw the view from the seat, and I got a great price on it. You could take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And if you're looking to sell your home today, next week, maybe the next year or so, if you're looking at the market, write down this number right now: 480-776-5231. That's 480-776-5231. Of course, you might know this by now because I've said it a lot. That is the number for the Carol Royce Real Estate Team, family owned and operated through 3 generations of family members serving you, the people of the Valley of the Sun. And that's important because they know about your streets. They know about your community. They know exactly who wants to buy your house and how they want to get it as well. And you can make the right decision. You can also make the guaranteed one, which is what Carol is offering. You will sell your home for 100% of the market value, or Carol will pay you the difference. If you're considering selling your home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce, your home sold guaranteed realty. You have questions? Call that number you wrote down earlier, or visit Carol online at carolroyce.com. That's carolroyce.com. We do have a disclaimer about the trades that Gerald will be getting to in a second. But first, of course, we have to read our super chats that we have. If you want to drop your super chat, any price will do. We will read those on screen. This one comes from Maria asking if we could get a guest spot with Lindsay ever. I'm not sure if we can. We can't speak for her. We can't speak for the future. But that is something that, of course, we would all love to have. We miss her very much, just like you said in your chat. She also says, love Steven and Eric. Oh, wow. Thank you. And the energy they bring. Always love Gerald, holding it down since the beginning.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. And Gerald, since you've been holding it down since the beginning, writing about crazy Suns trades for as long as you can remember, I think it's time for you to give one of your famous pre-trade discussion disclaimers.
Yeah, I love these because when you throw out a trade article, the first thing that you're going to get in return is this would never happen. These trades are stupid. First of all, I just wanted to go on record. I'm not reporting anything unless indicated otherwise. These are just kind of flawed thought exercises in terms of trying to set a framework so that people know what they can realistically expect and what probably isn't going to happen, because you see people come up with trades all the time. A lot of times they are geared towards their specific team and would make 0 sense for the other 1 or 2 or 3 teams that are involved. So our goal here is to try and paint a picture of what it would look like for every team involved, not just the Suns, because as we know, anytime another fan base proposes a Suns trade that doesn't make sense for us, we hammer it. So we want to try and be as fair as possible here. With that being said, 90% of trades that go down, what happens when we react to them? We're usually like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that team to do that. Or, wow, that team must value this player more than I thought. So as much as we're trying to make it as approximate to real life as possible, at the end of the day, certain teams are going to value players or picks more than we're kind of perceiving or guessing that they might. So yeah, just keep that in mind. This is a fun thought exercise. I'm aware that some of these trades are flawed, and we're going to bring up the certain obstacles step by step for each trade as to why, you know, Team B might not do this, or Team C would love this, or Team D would never even touch this.
I will say, to add on to that, Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey.
Yes. Prime example.
Sometimes what we think is smart, the teams don't.
Yep.
Or maybe just that specific team.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to get
Just
into a
saying.
trade with that specific
Just
team.
saying.
Yeah.
Let's start small, but let's get nuts. Gerald, this was a trade that, of course, you wrote about over at GoPHNX.com, which all of these trades are, and we will have more trades that we don't touch on today. That's over at GoPHNX.com. That article's for diehards only. But let's take a look at the Chicago Bulls swapping Patrick Williams for Jusuf Nurkic. You have a smile on your face, Gerald.
I do, because I'm still okay. So first of all, this was prompted by the fact that a betting site posted the Suns as having the best betting odds to land Patrick Williams, which I don't quite get. I understand a lot of people in the chat are going to be like, do this, absolutely, get rid of Nurkic. At the same time, I don't think those people have watched Patrick Williams play basketball
There's
this
no
year,
way, or last year for that matter.
or have seen his contract, because $18 million a year for this year and 4 years after that is a lot of long-term money to commit to a guy whose development has pretty much plateaued. Like, people are going to look at the fact that he's 23, the fact that he's a career, I think 39% three-point shooter, something like that, and want a stretch for somebody who gives the Suns size. But he's a terrible rebounder for a 4. And that type of money that you're committing to, like, first of all, you should never attach a draft pick to this trade. Like, it would have to be Nurk for Patrick Williams straight up, especially because you only have 1 first and 1 second that you could trade. But Steven, you could probably give the people a little more insight into Pat Will than I can.
Bulls fan.
What have
Yeah. well known.
that Steven look was watch your mouth.
That's out of all the things that I say that get Steven upset, which is a lot, calling him a Bulls fan is probably like the #1 thing to get a reaction.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. There's a couple other things, but that's definitely at the top.
And
of
I
the
think
list.
Pat Williams is a contributing factor. Go ahead,
He
Steve.
is, and for that reason, to start the conversation on Patrick Williams, for those that haven't had a chance to watch him, usually for a player that has one specific calling card, even if other dynamics of their game haven't surfaced, even if it is a young player, there's gonna be one that stands out. His calling card coming into the league was that he was a bigger-bodied, versatile defender who could defend well on the ball and do so off the ball, to the extent where he raises at least a team's floor when he's on the court. The Bulls have not been a positive when Patrick Williams has been on the court defensively since they drafted him. I think that alone should speak enough to understanding why this is not like okay, we're going to do the same thing that the Orlando or that the Oklahoma City Thunder did, and we're going to take one of their better defenders and give them something that we could do without and just break even. Like, there's going to be a lot of inherent risk involved with trading for Patrick Williams. And to your point, there is no conversation. If they ask for the 2031, hang up the phone.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Even if they ask for
Even
your
if they
second
ask for
round,
the second round pick, hang up the phone. There's unless they're getting rid of something that they don't really care too much for, and would rather take on, to your point in your article, a contract that's going to be on significantly less years, and just take that short stint cap hit.
Yeah,
that's the only way that this makes sense for both teams.
That review guy in the chat says, no defense and no rebounding? Sounds like a Sun already.
Oh, damn.
A lot of funny comments in the chat. A lot of good observations too. Bill, Sandman, that review guy, Meatloaf, Amelia, Michael, Lucas, we appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts in the chat. As far as this trade goes, I'm doing it in half a second. I think there is definitely risk, and of course he is under contract for longer, but getting Jusuf Nurkic off this team immediately should be a priority. And if you are not a priority in the sense that you like screwed over and like attach a first round pick to it, but in a sense where like you are taking a gamble on him for sure. But there is definitely a world where Patrick Williams can contribute to this team more likely than Jusuf Nurkic, I think, with the current locker room and the standings, and he's not making max contract money either, to where I would just do this to get Nurk off the team. You're going to take a shot at somebody, and maybe he doesn't play this year. Maybe he doesn't fit in this year. But Jusuf Nurkic wasn't doing either of those things. And I feel like with the chance, you're already gambling, high risk, high reward. I would do this if it's a straight up swap.
I see where you're coming from. And I do think if Nurk is going to be a potential locker room problem and you have to jettison him, then I understand it. But if we're just in this place where he's racking up DNP-CDs and he's not even touching the floor anyway, I would rather keep the guy who at least next season will be an expiring contract over Patrick Williams, who is making Jusuf Nurkic money for the next 4 years beyond this one. Like that's a lot to get out of. And sure, he's young. Maybe you can buy into Chicago's development wasn't doing him favors.
I think that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. I think it's part of it, but I just don't think he's a good player. Like I think you're committing to $72 million for a guy that's just not going to help you. And I think honestly, if those are the two alternatives, even in a straight up swap, I still think this team needs a backup center who can rebound, and I don't know that they have one when Nurkic is not in the lineup. Patrick Williams doesn't help me in any discernible way. For this season, this is like the type of flyer you take on a young player, but with that kind of money committed, I'm a little hesitant.
And that's the thing for me. Like I can't see a world in where Patrick Williams is simply a young player that needs a change of scenery. By the same measure, I feel like the Bulls will move Nikola Vucevic at some point before this deadline. So if they're trading 1-for-1 and it's that swap, Jusuf Nurkic serves a purpose for them, past just the contracts, to throw out a starting caliber center.
Yeah.
And give them someone that can do some of the things similarly to what Vooch does for them right now. But like there is a gamble with Patrick Williams, and I'm just not sure that what is the saying? The squeeze is worth the juice.
The squeeze is worth the squeeze.
The juice is worth the squeeze. I'm not sure if it's that for them with Patrick Williams specifically.
But I think but you're talking about, well, if there is a locker room problem with Jusuf Nurkic, obviously we don't know for sure. If I had to put money on it, I would say that there's a locker room problem with Jusuf Nurkic, right?
There could be.
And yeah, he would be on your books for longer, and maybe Phoenix is in a spot to develop these young players because, like we mentioned at the beginning of this, they don't exactly have the greatest infrastructure when it comes to planning things out. I think that's completely on the table. And there is a chance that you trade for Patrick Williams, and now you have a contract for longer that you don't want. But I also think by the same measure, like Chicago is a wasteland of a franchise, right? And I think that there is a world where Patrick Williams can become a contributing basketball player. Not near what you drafted him for.
Sure.
But not be a locker room distraction like Jusuf Nurkic.
He won't be that. That's for sure.
And that in itself, with a team where the vibes are might help it. They might be the only team willing to get rid of him. But if the money is a deal breaker, then I would totally understand it. Like I'm not going to stand on the table and say, I want Patrick Williams, right? But I think there's a world where I could talk myself into it and where I would do it. And I think that's interesting. Let's do a poll.
Yeah, let's do a poll. And let's be honest, we could talk ourselves into any player that the Suns wind up trading for.
Especially
because
me.
That's what we do here.
That's what I do to myself every single time, man.
But
Marshawn Brooks, Dylan Brooks?
There you go, exactly. But I do want to address the chat because a couple people asked about Vooch, a couple people asked about Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Neither one of those guys would work unless it's part of a larger Bradley Beal trade because they make more than Jusuf Nurkic's $18.1 million salary. And the Suns cannot take back more money than they send out in a trade. So anything above Nurk's $18 million, you can't trade Nurk for that player. So it would have to be part of a larger Bradley Beal trade. And I don't see either one of those guys being involved.
Well, speaking of a larger Bradley Beal trade, everybody buckle in, grab a snack, grab a drink. I think this is going to be a long one because we haven't even gotten into these massive Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal trades, but that is exactly what we're going to do right after another break. Let me grab this out of my pocket real quick. Look at this. Give me a little two-shot here.
Nice.
Noah. This is a Pure Edibles tin. Yeah, it's a tin. And on this tin, it tells me exactly what this Pure Edible is going to do. It's the Berry Sleepy Pure Gummy. It's a indica with a CBN. Now, the thing about Pure Edibles that's different than other edibles is they don't just tell you hybrid, sativa, indica. They tell you what the goal is for what you're taking, right? That's the sleepy one. There's bliss, there's uplift, there's relax and unwind, which are different somehow, but they also come in so many different varieties. Gummies, which that one is, Kicks, which is their version of Starburst chews, and hard candies as well. My favorite is the Kicks. They taste exactly like Starburst. They taste delicious, and they're also made with CBN, CBG, CBD, and of course THC as well. Local company, created in Flagstaff, now made in Phoenix. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries in Arizona. And if you missed it after our post-game show yesterday, Espo missed a minus 400 bet. So don't take his betting advice, but take mine when I say go over to Bet365 because it is never ordinary. And right now, when you open up a new account, you can get yourself some early bonus bets as well. Plus, they have a basketball early payout offer. If you bet on a team to win, money line, they go up by 20 points. Automatically, you get that money deposited into your account. And right now, win or lose, breaking news from Bet365, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets when they bet $5. Win or lose, sign up, use code PHNX365 when you get there, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5. Get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets cannot be used on spread, totals, player props, futures. They can be used on spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. If they couldn't, you wouldn't be able to use it. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 and over and fiscally located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, Espo, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. We do have a poll in the chat. Early returns for would you trade Jusuf Nurkic for Patrick Williams? 55% say yes, 45% say no. Make sure you vote in the chat. Make your voice heard. Of course, we appreciate, all of you who have hit that like button as well. We're getting there. We're about halfway there, 83 likes. We want to get to 169 likes. Hit that like button. Even if you are here after the fact on YouTube, we love you as well for audio. If you want to jump over to YouTube, leave a like. That's great. If you want to stay on your audio platform, rate us 5 stars. It helps us keep the lights on here. And that's something we are pretty interested in doing. So if you're interested in that as well, rate us 5 stars, hit that like button, subscribe. Over 420 of you in here right now, ready for some Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal trades. So hell, let's get to them. Let's get to a 5-team beauty. Gerald, break this one down for me.
Ooh, buddy. Okay, so the Suns are getting Jimmy Butler, and you thought I wouldn't find a way to get Torrey Craig back in a Suns jersey? You thought wrong. So the Suns getting Jimmy Butler, Torrey Craig. The Bucks getting Bradley Beal from the Suns, Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons, Josh Richardson via minimum exception from the Heat, and a second-round pick from Detroit. The Pistons are going to get Zach LaVine out of this exchange, along with Pat Connaughton and Alec Burks to make the math work. The Bulls are going to get Chris Middleton, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bobby Portis, a first-round pick from the Pistons, and a first-round pick from the Phoenix Suns, that 2031 pick. And the Heat are going to get Brook Lopez, Lonzo Ball, both of those are expiring contracts, Simone Fontecchio, and a first-round pick from the Pistons.
How did Noah even find space to have Jimmy's face in his graphic?
This is insane. Question. Well, we got to keep that up. We got to keep that up because that is a lot to process. At the end of the day, the Suns walking away with Jimmy Butler and Torrey Craig, giving up Bradley Beal and their first round pick in 2031. Everything else aside, Steven, we could talk about every team. We'd probably be here for like 2 years. We told y'all this would be crazy. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Butler and Torrey Craig for Beal in a first. Is that a valid swap and something that excites you?
I would like to say Jimmy Butler, yes. Torrey Craig, it feels like
watch your mouth.
Every single year this comes back, and the rumors spin the block, the league spins the block. I think so. I do think so. I think this is good for the Suns. Gives them depth past just Jimmy Butler. And I think that being able to get that in addition to him would be of great benefit for this team who lacks the size on the wing to make the rotations and things like that they need to defensively.
A couple other notes. The first that was going to Miami from Detroit would be lottery protected. That would be for 2029. The second rounder to the Bucks would be a 2029 pick, and the Bulls pick would be a 2027 since they're getting the Suns 2031. I think for the Heat, you are getting about $44 million in expiring money, which is kind of what they want out of a Butler deal. You're getting Fontecchio, who only has 1 year left on his deal after this, and is flippable somewhere else if you want. You're only getting a lottery protected first, but at this stage, with Jimmy Butler's value being where it is, I don't know if you can expect too much more than that. For the Bucks, I don't know that you would do this because you're giving up Lopez, Middleton, Portis, and Connaughton, and you're getting Beal. And I like Isaiah Stewart, but as a backup, not as your starting center on a contender. And I think for the Pistons, you're getting Zach LaVine, but would you rather just wait it out for Jaden Ivey to come back next season rather than surrender 2 firsts and a second for him? I don't think Detroit would do this either.
Miami making off with Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Bulls get Chris Middleton. Heat get Brook Lopez, Lonzo Ball.
And this one, that's what. Okay,
Yes.
Okay. I'll say that.
It's crazy.
I'll say that response for another one.
Yeah.
Sorry to play spoiler.
No, I think for the Heat, Brook Lopez, Lonzo Ball does help you win this year. I think Brook and Bam could play together, share the court. And I think Lonzo is going to fit well next to Tyler Hero. I could see the Heat talking themselves into it. I think the Bucks, they have to be really high on Bradley Beal. And they might, they have been really the only team who's come out and said we would, be open to getting and acquiring him.
Right.
And so maybe they see the writing on the wall with Chris Middleton and his injuries, and Brook Lopez is older, and you think, okay, now Bradley Beal is a, younger dynamic guard that we can put in with Dame and with Giannis. I think it does make sense for them, but it's hard. They are giving up a lot.
They are. And for me, the Bucks' interest in Bradley Beal doesn't make a lot of sense because they are a second tax apron team. So in order to make that trade work, they have to get below that tax apron line. They're about $6.5 million above it right now. So they have to dump Pat Connaughton somewhere, his $9.5 million, without taking salary back in return to get under that. Or they can execute a trade where they are aggregating salaries, but they're shedding $6.5 million so that they go below that second tax apron. So in order to get there, you're going to have to be sending out at least $55.5 million or $56.5 million to take on Beal. That is at least 3 of the 4 guys of Portis, Lopez, Middleton, and Connaughton. You're gutting your roster basically for Bradley Beal, and maybe you can add on another piece as well. That's hard for me to envision, especially in the scenarios where Lopez and Portis are both going out, because then you have no bigs.
Well, that's their. I mean, outside of Giannis, that's 2/3 of their main rotation in the front court. That's tough.
Well, good thing we have so many more options to choose from. Gerald, we took the Pistons out of the equation. Suns, Heat, Bucks, and Bulls. Break down this one for us.
Yeah, so the Suns get Jimmy Butler and they get Josh Richardson from the Heat on a vet minimum deal. The Bucks get their alleged guy in Bradley Beal. They also take on Patrick Williams from the Bulls, and they get Alec Burks, another vet minimum guy. The Heat get Zach LaVine from Chicago. They get Brook Lopez, that expiring contract, which is something that they reportedly want, expiring deals. And then they take on Bobby Portis, who I think only has 1 year left on his contract. After this, the Bulls get Chris Middleton, Terry Rozier, Pat Connaughton, and for taking on all that extra salary, they get a first rounder from the Heat, a first rounder from the Suns, that 2031 pick, and a second rounder from Milwaukee.
That is a little bit, I feel like, more doable.
Yeah.
Right? I think you could break it down, Steven, from a Suns perspective. You're still getting Jimmy. Josh Richardson, I don't see playing as much as I think Torrey Craig would, but do you believe he would still have a spot in the rotation here?
I do. Point of attack defense, and I can repeat that for the rest of the duration of this podcast if need be. He provides that, and he gives them a different look past that only being Ryan Dunn in his current rendition.
For the Bucks, Bradley Beal, Patrick Williams, Alec Burks, right? You're still giving up Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton and Pat Connaughton. Is this a better return for the Bucks, getting somebody like Patrick Williams and Alec Burks, than it would be getting, I think it was what in the last one? They got Beal, and they got Isaiah Stewart and Josh Richardson. So you're doing Isaiah Stewart and Josh Richardson versus Patrick Williams and Alec Burks.
I honestly liked the Bucks' return in the last one better.
And that was already a long shot.
Yeah, because they already, at least in that one, they got an actual center.
Correct.
This one, they're getting a 4 who's not a good rebounder, and both Portis and Lopez are on the way out. Again, I don't understand Milwaukee's reported interest in adding Beal in a potential Jimmy Butler trade just because of how much they would have to gut. But outside of that, it feels fair. Like outside of like we're so close. We got 3 of 4 teams. I don't know if Miami would actually want Zach LaVine, especially with the way that Tyler Hero is playing. So I will say that. But we're getting a little closer.
I think that it takes Zach LaVine when you get Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis in addition to that. Those are the type of bigs that you want to surround Bam Adebayo with.
Yeah.
A center that can space the floor and allow for him to operate comfortably in the spaces that he wants to, but also defensively taking on bigger matchups and allowing for him to play that roamer role and just wreak havoc. That's quite literally the template that they desire long term for him to kind of optimize his two-way all-star level play. And I think that's something that they would just really that would launch them into true playoff contention. I think they're maybe like 6th or 7th right now, but that would firmly put them in the top 6 on paper for me.
Saul says this is a great trade, but still won't get you a title.
Yeah.
Todd Packer says getting jiggy with it. He liked this one. It was spicy. A lot of you kind of sounding off in the chat. A very divided crowd on this one. I feel like we're going to find a lot of divided crowds on all these trades. If you missed Gerald's disclaimer, it was basically, in order for this to happen, somebody's probably going to have to do something stupid. Right.
Yeah.
So we're trying to explore what could those stupid things be. Also, just to revisit the poll that a lot of you have voted on, 137 votes. Would you trade Jusuf Nurkic for Patrick Williams straight up? 67% say yes. 33% say no. Almost 450 of you in here right now. That's a lot for a Tuesday afternoon. Let's get that number even higher. Share this link with your Suns friends who like to get a little crazy. Hit that like button. We are just about 60 likes away from our goal. We appreciate it. Sean says, Suns fans divided? What?
No way.
I feel like I was hitting the little home improvement. Huh? What? Okay, sorry. I'll shut up now. All right, let's get to another massive trade. Surprise, surprise. Let's add another team into the mix. Suns, Heat, Magic, Bulls, Kings. Woo.
So I feel like low-key the Magic are another team that would actually make sense for both Beal and for a team in terms of him being able to help a playoff caliber team. The Magic are dead last in 3-point percentage, and Bradley Beal is a career 38-39% 3-point shooter. He's shooting the ball well this season. He would be their go-to option in the backcourt at least, because obviously they still have Banchero and Wagner, but he would add a little scoring punch for Orlando, and I feel like they would make sense. Like for Beal, he would get to be on a better team than the Suns currently are right now. He'd be about 2 hours away from Gainesville, where he went to college in Florida. So I feel like that might be a low-key, sneaky good. I don't know if it would actually happen if the Magic are even interested, but Suns get Jimmy Butler and Torrey Craig again. Magic get Bradley Beal and a second-rounder from the Heat. The Kings get Zach LaVine and 2 first-round picks, one from Miami, one from Phoenix. The Bulls get KCP, Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, a second-rounder from the Magic, and a first-rounder from the Heat. And the Heat pull off a De'Aaron Fox, Trey Lyles coup that I don't think is going to happen anymore because Sacramento suddenly decided to start winning games over the last few weeks.
Blame Doug Christie for that.
Yep, this trade. I came up with this trade like a couple of weeks ago, and it made perfect sense at the time because the Kings were floundering. Mike Brown had been fired. There was all this speculation about De'Aaron Fox, and then the Kings are like 9-2 since then. So here we are sitting in this unrealistic place, but fun to think about.
It is. I like the trade from Miami. Them getting a point guard to go with Tyler Hero. And obviously with Bam Adebayo as well, I think will help them a ton. I think especially the pace at which De'Aaron Fox plays at, that would help them a lot.
Yeah.
I think it gets them also into a win-now scenario. I think I just generally like the feel for this trade. And to the Bradley Beal point going to Orlando, I think they're still, like, he's been great this season, speaking to Franz Wagner. But I feel like this is what they needed to see from him in the playoffs against Cleveland last year to get them out of Game 7 and potentially winning that series in 6. And that changes everything that they're looking at in terms of assessing their roster and free agents looking at their roster in this offseason that just passed. So there's still question marks with Franz, and I feel like Bradley Beal will help to solve a lot of that because his playmaking burden and his general creation burden goes down. You can only guard Bradley Beal in so many ways without burning yourself, and having him as a chess piece around Paulo as well as Franz will help them a ton.
If you want some more talk about where Bradley Beal specifically fits in with a couple of teams, including the Orlando Magic, which I'll say I absolutely love the Magic as a landing spot for Bradley Beal. You and I talked about it last week, Gerald, when you were mulling this over. Steven and I recorded a Southwest Bias that's coming out on PHNX Sports at 6 o'clock tonight. Also will be in your audio feeds around 6 as well. If you want to check that out, about 20 minutes, 20 good minutes on why Bradley Beal would and would not go to these teams, right? And I thought that was really interesting. A great conversation with Steven and I that you could check out on audio or on video coming out tonight at 6. I love Bradley Beal on the Magic. I think the Bulls getting picks, and you could take a young swing on a guard like Cole Anthony, who's been around, but still could have a little upward trajectory in his career. The Heat getting De'Aaron Fox and Trey Lyles would be perfect for them. It's the Kings. And you mentioned it. The Kings are the big holdup here. But might I remind everybody, it's the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
And they're like, they would have to start losing right now. Things would have to get toxic. De'Aaron Fox would basically have to tell them I want out. I don't see that happening in the next week or two, obviously. But he did choose to forego an extension with them heading into the season. And the reason that he cited was like, we're not a team like the Celtics. We're not winning right now. Things can change very quickly. I don't think they'll change this quickly. But it was
you never know, right? You never know. We've seen a team go on a winning streak and then not be able to follow up on that.
Like who?
Oh, nobody in particular.
Sure.
Almost to our like goal, 121 likes. Thanks to everybody. Almost 500 of you in here right now. That is awesome, and I'm very glad that you guys are around because the final two trades that we are talking about are the real crazy ones. It might get toxic. It might get crazy. Only one way to find out. Stick with us through our final break. If you didn't know, 2025 is here, and it might be hitting you hard, but it's time to skip the resolution, skip the gym, skip the fad diet, skip the BS resolutions you're going to forget about by February. You want to know why? Because you want to do something that is actually long-lasting, something serious, and save some serious cash, and you can do that by making the switch to Mint Mobile. And right now, you can get half off their 3-month unlimited plan. That is a jaw-dropping monthly deal for them, and not the jaw-dropping monthly prices you're going to see with other wireless plans and their overages and their outages and all the other BS that you want to leave back in 2024. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Any plan, $15 a month, even their unlimited plan. Switch to Mint, and new customers get half off their unlimited plan until February 2nd. The clock is ticking. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Suns. That's mintmobile.com/Suns. And of course, you've been supporting the program for a long time, which I know so many of you in the chat have been. You know about our friends over at Circle K. And if you don't, let me put you on. Let me help you save some money by joining their free membership program, of course, the Inner Circle. Not only do you get 25 cents off per gallon for your first 5 fill-ups and then 3 cents off on your fill-ups after that. A little secret between me and you. Eventually that gets bumped up to 5 cents. Espo calls it the Espo level, but it's really for everybody. You not only get those deals with the Inner Circle, you also get exclusive deals and discounts on snacks and drinks, including, well, what thirst just met its match, because you get a 79-cent Polar Pop or Froster. It's a member-exclusive beverage deal. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. That review guy, State Tricks, that dude, Yanavis, Charles. Hey, that's my middle name. What's up, Charles? So many of you in the chat, new faces, old faces, everybody in between. We appreciate every single one of you allowing us to do this, allowing us to be a part of your Tuesday afternoon or whenever you happen to listen to all these crazy trade ideas. Let's keep smashing that like button. Keep subscribing to PHNX Sports if you want Diamondbacks, Cardinals, Wildcats, Sun Devils, Mercury, Rising talk. We have it all right here for you in the most convenient YouTube channel possible. That dude in the chat has not been a fan of any of these trades, right?
Okay.
Which is to be expected. There are a lot of people who are not a fan of these big trades. Says, wait, the first 3 cartoonish trades weren't the big ones? OMG. No, see, those were the biggest ones. We're not doing anything more than a 5-team deal. But they certainly weren't the craziest because I'm gonna get out of the way.
Sure.
And I'm just going to let Gerald take you through this next trade here.
All right. Well, let's pretend like we live in a world where this is possible. Suns get Brook Lopez from Milwaukee, and Cam Johnson returns from Brooklyn. The Milwaukee Bucks get their guy Bradley Beal, and they get Jakob Poeltl from Toronto. The Nets receive Bruce Brown's expiring contract, Pat Connaughton, and the Suns' 2031 first-round pick. The Raptors get Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, Zaire Williams to make the money work, and a first-round pick from the Bucks, which is their 2031 pick, which is honestly in their book just as valuable as the Suns' 2031 pick because they are also low on draft assets. The Nets are never doing this for Cam Johnson. They're never taking just one first-rounder
What
back.
if you can flip Bruce Brown and Pat Connaughton for picks?
I mean, you
I
can.
don't know if you can, but what if?
You definitely can, potentially. I don't think you can with Pat. I think you can maybe with Bruce if there's a team that wants him. But I think they might want more than one first for Cam Johnson. And I think, honestly, they could potentially get it.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could maybe that first round pick coming from the Bucks to the Raptors, could that slide over to the Nets? Because the Raptors reportedly want to move on from Bruce Brown, right? So you're helping them out. You're getting playable players in Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton if he's healthy, right? Maybe they do it for not a first round pick.
Maybe, but I think them giving up Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl,
Yeah, Jakob's a big one.
Their participation to facilitate the trade, like they have no interest in Portis or Middleton other than trying to flip them later. So I feel like they would want a first rounder of some type or a couple of second rounders, which both of these teams are kind of low on those assets. I mean, the Bucks have a second rounder and the Suns have a second rounder. But I don't know. What do you, I mean, I'm of the opinion if you're giving up your first round pick in 2031, it has to be for a deal that you are certain makes this team a contender. And I do think Brook Lopez, that addresses your center spot. You now have Brook Lopez and Nick Richards as your center rotation, maybe mixing in Oso Ighodaro if you need more switchability. You've got Cam Johnson, another wing, sharpshooting wing, so you can switch. You could close games with a lineup of Booker, Cam Johnson, Ryan Dunn, Kevin Durant, and either Brook Lopez or Nick Richards. That's pretty awesome. But I don't know. Like, we still have all these concerns about this team needing to internally fix themselves. So I don't know if it's enough.
I don't know if it's enough for teams that are not the Suns because I feel like Brooklyn doing a favor to the Bucks with Pat Connaughton taking on that contract is something. And I think also taking on Bruce Brown's contract in addition to that is like, hey, I'm doing a lot of back scratching, but I'm not getting mine scratched in any capacity. Obviously, unless you flip Bobby or Bruce Brown, excuse me. But even to that point, even if you do flip him, that's you doing that on your own merit. That's not included in the context in which you're receiving this player. So it gets tough. But speaking from a Suns perspective, Brook Lopez will obviously be a major positive for them. Puts Nick Richards in a role that he's more suited for at this moment in time. Gives Bud someone he's familiar with. Hopefully that means that will help the defense in terms of giving them some sustainable success in terms of consistency. And obviously offensively, in addition to that, they get the floor spacing with Cam Johnson as another wing to their group that's a bigger wing, obviously familiar with Phoenix. And then Brook Lopez being able to space the floor out as a 5 in addition to that. And also get his quiet playmaking in the secondary and tertiary role as a hit to their offense is a positive as well.
Lopez is kind of the blueprint for, I know he's 36 and that's worrisome, but he's also a good shot blocker still, a good 3-point shooter still. And I do think for the Bucks, at least this time they get an actual serviceable starting center in return for giving up their 2 bigs in a trade. Again, I'm going to continue to say this because people keep talking about why would the Bucks do this? I don't know. I have no idea. Milwaukee's interest in Beal makes no sense to me at all, considering what they'd have to give up. But if we're operating under the premise that Milwaukee does want Beal, this is about as good as they're possibly going to do in terms of replacing the holes that they're going to have at center. For me, my concern is obviously the Nets giving up Cam Johnson for only 1 first. Bruce Brown isn't expiring, so that would give them even more cap space this summer if they weren't able to flip him. But the Raptors is a first from the Bucks enough. Are the Bucks giving up too much? I would argue yes.
So,
yes.
If the Suns got Brook Lopez and Cam Johnson, I'd cry. Because I genuinely I think having a center rotation of Brook Lopez, Nick Richards, and then Oso Ighodaro as your break glass in case of emergency type of player would be awesome, right? Cam Johnson, shooting, versatility, smart, incredibly smart. Something this team desperately does need is another smart player that can go in there and that can shoot. Imagine a lineup of Grayson Allen and Cam Johnson on the floor together with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and a smart defender like Brook Lopez down low, or an athletic defender like Nick Richards.
Yeah.
Right. That's extremely tantalizing, and offensively, that is an incredibly potent option. Right. The Bucks getting Bradley Beal, and Steven and I talked about why the Bucks actually might want Bradley, not just because of the reporting, but the on the floor basketball talk. So if you want a little bit more as to why maybe Milwaukee is more eager, Gerald, I highly encourage you to listen to Southwest Bias. The Nets, though, so the Bucks have 1 second-round pick, and the Suns have 1 second-round pick. My question to both of you is, would you throw in your second-round pick to the Nets if the Bucks threw in their second-round pick to the Nets, making the haul for the Nets Bruce Brown, Pat Connaughton, a first-round pick, a 2025 Denver second-rounder, and then, of course, whatever the Bucks have as a second-round pick? Would you do that to get this done?
You're killing me. I don't know, man. I'm torn on this. I think this is a deal that makes sense for the Suns. It addresses their two biggest needs on the wing and in terms of a starting caliber center. But I also don't know if this puts them in the same class as Boston, as OKC right now. And you're giving up all of your remaining assets all to go all in on this kind of last maneuver here. I don't know. Steven?
I would. And I would simply because I don't think there is a trade available for this team to leapfrog from where they are to that realm. It's going to take the trade happening and work being done internally and in process on the basketball court for them to get to that level. This gives them the best chance to do so. And I think that the threes, if the three-point shooting is the point that you want to dictate with most, having a starting center that can get up upwards of 5 or north of 40% from deep, the hit that takes to your shot profile, and then you quadruple down on your wing group with adding Cam Johnson and spinning the block to recoup a piece that you gave up for Kevin Durant to get back just 2.5 seasons later. I think that would be a major, major plus. It's worth it. Obviously, there's risk involved with that, but it's beyond worth it.
I think that you put in the second-round pick, right? Because if you're looking at Cam Johnson and Brook Lopez and not just the three-pointers, right, but how they fit into this specific system, they could play with basically any lineup besides a dual big lineup of Nick Richards and Brook Lopez. I just think that it's something that gives the Suns non-toxic options to fix things. And I think that there's a world where Jimmy Butler's leadership and whatever he brings could actually help the Suns. There's also, you're staring down the barrel of a contract extension with somebody who's forced his way off of every single team that he's been on so far. So you are going all in. You are gambling on two pieces instead of one. Two players that I don't know if Cam Johnson starts for you. I don't know if he comes off the bench. I don't really know what that is, but I don't think Cam Johnson would really fully care because he would be back home playing competitive basketball. And this would be a team that I think could compete for a championship on paper. Now, Bill in the chat has talked a lot about, the team has to try and work on their internal things. And Mac in the chat has talked about how like Beal's not waiving his no trade clause. There are a lot of things that we've discussed over the show. And if you're one of the 500 people that's in here right now, which is awesome, thank you. And you missed the beginning of the show, I highly encourage everybody to go back. We talked about the Suns not having a zone defense package like Kevin Durant mentioned. We talked about Bradley Beal, the reporting from The Athletic, talking about him being willing to waive his no trade clause. And then at the start of the second segment, before we got into trades, Gerald gave his disclaimer as to, most of these trades, something crazy would have to happen. If you are watching on TV, we really appreciate you joining us as well. Just want to remind you, the party always continues at gophnx.com with this show and all of our other shows as well. That's where Gerald's article does live, with more Jimmy Butler trades, more non-Jimmy Butler trades, crazy ones, a little bit more calm. If you are trying to dive in deep onto that, highly encourage you, gophnx.com, become a diehard today, click the diehard tab, unlock all of Gerald's fantastic writing while you're there. Read Steven's notebook, and of course, you can get so much more all over at gophnx.com. This last trade, and I'm glad that we have the most people in the chat right now, which, by the way, like goal still 169, 29 likes away. Gerald, when I saw that you put this trade in your article, my jaw dropped. I said, oh, crap. Gerald wants to talk about something.
Yeah. All right. You want to set it on fire?
Dude, get the flamethrower.
How about a mulligan, everyone? How about we bring back DeAndre and we land Deni Advija in a 4-team Bucks, Blazers, Raptors extravaganza?
Oh my gosh.
The Suns get DA and Deni Advija. The Bucks get Bradley Beal and Jakob Poeltl. The Raptors get Robert Williams, Pat Connaughton, and the Suns' second-round pick from 2025. And the Blazers get Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, the Suns' first-round pick in 2031, and a second-rounder from Milwaukee. How we feeling, everyone?
Oh, everybody is laughing, saying, hell no, go to hell, Gerald. Can you not? Never Newt says 100% win the championship. Don says, oh, hell no. Kev says, nah, trolling. Can we put a poll in the chat just to see what the 500 people in here really think? I want a visual on this because Gerald is dying. Steven, DeAndre and Deni Advija on the Phoenix Suns, problem solved?
Deni Advija on the Phoenix Suns, a problem solved. My question to y'all and my question to the chat is, at this moment, does DeAndre Ayton start over Nick Richards?
No.
I think that's a genuine question.
That's so crazy.
Like 2 years ago, there's no way we would have been having this conversation, but yet and still, here we are. No, it doesn't solve everything for the Suns, but it helps because it helps to like DeAndre Ayton, for as bad as he's been in his Blazers tenure, is still multiple steps ahead of where Oso is right now. And needless to speak to Mason Plumlee and Jusuf Nurkic on that front.
Dude, 30 people left. Dude, that's so fun. I'm sorry. This is so funny, Gerald. This is so funny. Yeah, Deni Advija, absolutely. Oh, okay. Here are the options for the poll. Love, like, meh, bruh. I have a feeling bruh is going to be a runaway. 15% right now say love it. Okay.
Interesting.
Anybody who's in the chat who says yes, right? Who says yes, do this. Are you buying in on DeAndre Ayton? Is it simply for Deni Advija? Are you like King Nacho and you just want Bradley Beal to be gone? Because
I think it's got to be like a combination, right?
This has to be the funniest timeline.
Because
right?
we're not like full on Stockholm syndrome where we're like, man, the Nurk experience has been so bad, we got to bring DA back. Because DA was traded for a reason. And he was traded for as little as he was traded for a reason. His trade value was non-existent that summer. They tried. Like, this was the best that they could do. I do think DA would be an upgrade over what you've had
Mason Plumlee
for most of the season. I think that's fair to say, like, without being a DA hater or stan. I do think Deni Advija, in terms of being a glue guy on the wing who can do multiple things, he's like a Swiss Army knife, would really help their wing rotation as well. I think you get out of the Bradley Beal situation. You get out of the Bradley Beal contract. The Bucks still get their Jakob Poeltl, their center replacement. The Blazers, for me, they're taking on, I mean, Brook Lopez is expiring, but you're taking on Middleton and Portis for a first and a second. Is that enough if you're giving up DA and Deni Advija? I don't know. The Raptors, like, they're getting Robert Williams. Oh, the Blazers are giving up him too. So that's kind of a lot for Portland to give up. But this trade, I don't even know if I ever meant to analyze it. Actually.
Oh, we're analyzing it. Oh, buddy, Saul in the chat says Ayton literally fits the vibe of what the Suns are right now. That's the problem.
Yes. Yes.
Dude, it would actually be okay.
It would never happen. And I wrote this in my article. I think my exact analysis at the very bottom of the article, because this was the last trade.
And I made sure to grab this one.
Yeah, it was lulz. This is never going to happen. But could you imagine? I can't. It won't happen. But it's funny.
Would you rather? I'll put this up. Would you rather the Suns don't make any other moves? It is status quo. Nick Richards is the move. We're going to roll the ball out, and whatever happens this season happens. Would you rather that timeline, or would you rather the DeAndre Ayton timeline?
I'll take Ayton because it's coming with Deni Advija. Because the coach that was an issue with Ayton is not here anymore. A majority of the ownership group, as we've heard and grown to learn, is not here anymore. And quite literally, that entire roster is not around anymore.
The one guy that is, though, and obviously, Gerald, you mentioned like DA got traded for specific reasons. And if you remember, I think it was the first time the Suns played DA afterwards. And DA had a good game.
Yes.
And Book said, I'd like to see him do that every night.
Yes.
That is the player that you're worrying about if you're bringing DA back. The vibes would go through the gutter.
They would, and especially because DA has always had a problem with self-awareness in terms of analyzing his own game. He was always a guy who thought that he should play a more prominent role in the offense, should take more threes, even though these things weren't really conducive to his skill set. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I will say, like, as much as even if KD and Book weren't like actively advocating for him to get traded, you don't trade a piece like DA right before the start of the season without those guys' tacit approval. I'm just going to say that.
Again, the point of that being worth it is because of Deni Advija.
Yes.
He's not obviously naturally because of the recent history, Aiden is going to steal a majority of the plot, but the player that's going to actually have a true impact on the rotation is going to be Deni Advija.
And Jersey Joe brought it up, 5 centers on the roster. Yeah, you would probably have to dump Plumlee somewhere.
Of course.
You'd probably have to dump 1 or 2 centers because that's way too many centers on the roster. You would probably have to make other moves because you're giving up your first and your second. You're probably going to have to dump Tyus Jones or some other role player to try and get some sort of draft assets, which is why for me, this trade, I would say no. I would honestly take the do-nothing approach and just keep your picks and try and restructure over the summer, because I don't think this trade is saving you this season or beyond, but it's funny.
It is, and that's the only reason why we included it here. Everybody, like, that's not, like, come on, like, it's not legitimate.
It's never going to happen.
All of these trades were crazy, right? Let us know what your favorite trade was down in the comments below. Let's wrap things up by reading this poll. How much would you love to have DeAndre Ayton back? The options were love, like, meh, and bruh. Anybody want to guess what the leading vote getter is?
I'm going to say bruh.
55% say bruh. 20% say meh. 14%. So not in last place is love. 12% say like. So 26% would be for it.
So I had heard 75% are bruh or meh.
Bruh or meh?
That sounds about right.
Leo with a $1.99 super chat. Thanks, Leo. Says, just go get Yuta, KVD, Goodwin, and Metu.
There you go. Fixed, Leo.
No better way to round out an insane edition of the PHNX Suns show than to shout out Chimezie Metu's beautiful jump shot. If you know, you know. Thanks to Sean, Mike, Stat, Strikeout, Thon, Charles, Jason, Saul, Mario, Not Bros, Faith, King Nacho, Kev, Gerald, you're in the chat, Mike from Mesa, Strikeout, Lucas, Mike D, Bill, Jersey Joe, That Dude, Mark, and Nicholas, and everybody whose name I didn't read. I see you, Juju, on that seat. I see you. We are so close. Did we pass it? Is that 160? Okay.
We're
9
so close.
likes. Guys, there are 473 of you in here. There are 160 likes. I'm going to do the outro. Please get us to 169 likes before this stream ends. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. Of course, shout out to Crazy Computer Boy behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. Noah, we appreciate him and all the hard work that he does putting together these trade graphics. Every single time we have to indulge Gerald and his craziness. Speaking of Gerald, you can follow him and his craziness at Gerald Bourget. Read all of his wonderful writing over at gophnx.com. You can follow myself at ERIKRUBY. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. That is Steven with a PH. We hit our like goal. Thank you. Appreciate everybody who did that. And remember, Steven also has wonderful writing over at gophnx.com. Check out Southwest Bias coming out at 6 o'clock tonight in your audio feeds on PHNX Sports. And Espo's not here. Espo taking care of some family stuff, so it's okay. We wish Espo the best. Do we have any outro, any thoughts on how to end what was a absolutely wild edition of the PHNX Suns show? Party time? Oh, we got to save that, though. That's a little teaser. We do need to do that for future shows. But do we have any final thoughts?
Go read the article. There are more trades over there. But I'm glad you enjoyed the GA one. And I'm glad everyone loves it.
Oh, and if you have any trades that you hate, we have an official complaint line for PHNX. Just opened up. It's perfect. You go on social media at Espo, ESPO. Tweet at him if you hate any of the trades you heard of today. See y'all tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.